Okay, so today it's my absolute pleasure to follow up Marianne's session on the second half of the recruitment journey for franchisees by interviewing a lady I shall describe as a titan of the franchise sector. There you go, Cathryn.
I'll take that, adding it to my LinkedIn profile as we speak.
Update that. You can have that one on me.
Yeah, thank you.
Cathryn is QFP. She's a franchise director at Revive Auto Innovations. I've had the pleasure of working Revive on various initiatives over a couple of years, and it made absolute sense to talk about the second half of the recruitment journey with somebody representing a business that does a lot of really, really innovative and creative stuff to build that network and to build a loyal and trusted sort of group of franchisees. So I've got a few questions I want to go through with you, Cathryn, if that's okay.
Sure.
Really reflecting what Marianne's kind of been going through earlier. So the first one is about, once you've found and agreed that a new franchisee is joining the team, just in headline format, what's the onboarding process that you put them through to get them up and running? What kind of touch points and what kind of activity, and maybe, I guess, how long would that take?
Yeah, interestingly, I've just kicked off one today. So we've got somebody who's just signed their contract, sent it back and paid their deposit. So we're about to start their training. So most of the relationship as they come through this recruitment process is with me. And Terry as well. We work on it together, but mostly it's with me. So once we get to the point where they're signed and I start passing them on to the team to be trained, then my very first thing is I do an initial email to the new franchisee, copying in the support team and then introducing them by name. So Vlad is our IT manager. He's going to set you up with your new Revive email address. Lisa is our training manager. She's going to speak to you very shortly about your training schedule and we'll start getting that done. Louise is the accounts. We go through. So there's 4 key people that they get to know very quickly. And then one person, which is Lisa, our training manager, coordinates everything so that we start delivering those training modules. And we start that fairly quickly because we can't launch them until we've helped them recruit 2 technicians, and the 2 technicians need to be able to drive in their 2 new vans. So we need to get vans and technicians. So there's quite a bit of manoeuvring to do to get somebody ready to launch. And I suppose similarly, if anything's premises based, then you've got to find the right premises, and that can take quite a while. So, but we try and keep them busy in that time, because otherwise they're sitting at home thinking, oh, I really want to start my new business, but I haven't got anybody yet. So they're looking at CVs as we get them in. They're starting to do some of their training modules. We've just introduced a couple of extra job shadowing bits, and it's shadowing with a technician. The franchisee is a management franchisee. They're not going to be a technician out in a van, but they need to manage their own technicians. They need to know what goes on. They need to see what's a day going to be like. And one day is not enough. So we've put in a couple of extra days. So they're doing 3 days in a week and then going through that with one of our technical managers, and then going on to do a bit more training. So the training is very modular, and it doesn't have to be all done 2 weeks at head office, but we probably do one of the weeks at head office and put those modules in.
Okay, well, they get a really good early exposure to the business, get a really good early exposure to the support that's going to be available. I like the fact that you keep them busy, because naturally, they're thinking, well, what have I invested in if I'm sat here and nobody's helping me and I don't know what to do? And going back to what Marianne said about advocacy, you're probably picking, it might not just be local, but it could be the most effective people who are franchisees to showcase the skill sets of the technicians and things. So there's a lot of good stuff in there, but I like the fact that it's modular. I like the fact it's repeatable. I like the fact it's process driven, because it means you can look at it and say, does that bit work really well? If not, we'll tweak that little bit, but you're not changing the whole program. So that's really good. How long would it take, do you reckon? I know there's premises and there's vans and there's recruitment, but how long do you reckon it is for a typical franchisee to become a little bit independent, or at least independence confident, where they're reliant less on the mothership, as it were? You know, when would you expect over a period of time from signing the deposit and getting up and running to they become, you know, less reliant and more self-sufficient?
I think, well, it's really from launch that they start on that journey, because until they launch, they don't quite know what it's like. They're still in training. So launch can be a couple of months because it is dependent on finding those technicians, or it could be a month if we get them really quickly. But we consider them to be in training really for at least the first year, because although they have their initial training, and that's broadly a couple of weeks, or now 3 weeks with these extra job shadowing days, there are extra training modules for them to go on during that first year, and they will repeat some of those training modules as well, because we find people pick things up at different levels, and some people find the technical bit really easy, and the technical bit for them is understanding the scope of the work that we do, the mobile car repairs, what we should do, what we shouldn't do, and the pricing in particular, depending on the time. Some people pick that up really easily. Some people find it a real challenge, and they're still asking for our help, you know, 6 months down the track. So I would say probably between 6 months and 12 months of launch is when they become more self-sufficient. But the first 3 months in particular, we're all over them. And then we start pulling back a little bit, not having quite so many calls as they go forward.
So you're letting the air out of the water wings gradually, rather than
yes, yeah. We don't whip those water wings out and give them to somebody else. They have to. They might still need them.
Might need them, so we might need to put some air in the water at some stage. Okay. Now I know that Revive is an innovative business, and obviously it's called Revive Auto Innovations for a reason. But in terms of how you run the business, there's lots of innovation in how you do things. I'm sure your onboarding process has been refined and developed and continues to be refined and developed over the years. Is the one thing in your onboarding process that you would absolutely never now change because it's so fundamental to the impact or success of that onboarding process?
I think we tend to tweak rather than you know, chuck everything out and start again, as you say. So I don't think you can take one bit out and say that's the one bit that means that they're successful. The training is key, as you might expect, but it's the whole training, because they need to know all different aspects of the job. So I think for us, I think that one of the key things is about the relationship that they build with us and with our support team. And as Revive have grown, I mean, initially it was just Mark and Terry, as you know, and, you know, one bookkeeper and a couple of people, whereas now we've got 35 staff, and the support team is probably 8 people to bring in a new franchisee. So that's not full-time 8 people, but 8 people having an impact with them. So I think the key thing is building the relationships, and the key to that is having the relationship with your own staff that mean that they see it as important as you do. So our staff that look after the franchisees, the directors can step back a little bit, but not entirely, but they are able to build up those strong relationships as well, and not be, Marianne mentioned the, you know, computer says no, or the rule book says this, so we can't do it. So they need to be empowered to do things to help the franchisees, but also feel that they can come back and say, do you know what, this isn't working, or we need to do more, or something is not quite right with this particular franchisee that we need to address. So relationships are so important, and I think it's what makes Revive, because the franchisees, when they come in, they're a bit nervous about the different aspects of the business. They don't quite know what to expect. But what they do know is that they quickly feel like part of the Revive family, and keep that going. So our staff feel like part of that family, and that then pushes through into the franchisees. And that's really key, because if you get somebody that's not going to go the extra mile, or not going to look after them, or not going to make them feel comfortable, it's just not going to work. They've paid us a lot of money. They need to be sure that we're there for them.
Well, they'll have expectations on that as well, won't they?
Yeah.
And the other thing I'd say is I quite like the fact that it seems like a fairly new initiative where you do the shadowing. You've sort of mentioned that.
Yeah.
That. that must have come about because someone somewhere thought that's a great idea, and it's a trial of how it works. Does it add value? Does it feel part of the onboarding process? So I love the fact that you never stand still. You never sit back on your laurels and go, we are absolutely awesome at this. Let's do what we do. And, you know, I do love
you can't, you absolutely can't. That's absolutely key. It doesn't matter how long you've been franchising. You can't say, oh, we've got it sussed. It's a bit like recruitment. You can't say, oh, I've got it sussed now. I'm going to advertise here. I'm going to do some pay-per-click. That's it all forever, because things change. But for us, again, with the onboarding, the support team, we have a weekly, it's only half an hour, maybe 40 minutes, but we have a weekly call every single week to go through who we're launching. So it started off with you know, 1 or 2 at the beginning of the year, and now there's 6 people that we're balancing, but 3 of them have already launched. So it's just a quick case of, are the sales okay? Are we getting any complaints? Is there a bit more? But the support team have that quick catch up. Any reports from you, Lisa, any reports about the accounts, you know, and that's where the job shadowing bit came up. And what they said was actually their first week in when they launch, it's like all hell's broken loose, because they've gone from the relatively calm environment of head office where they've been with us and we've been sorting them. And then they're out there, they've got 2 technicians, they've got customers, they've got work booked in, they've got vans driving around. They don't know what their day looks like because each day is a bit different. So we thought actually we need to immerse them in it. They need to be out in the world of a technician. So we've just added that to the training for the next couple.
You've de-feared that, haven't you, really? You've taken out the, you know, the, oh my goodness, I didn't expect this. They've got an expectation. Whether they can live up to it's a different thing, but the expectation.
Yeah.
So the next stage Marianne talked about is retention, and one of the things that I would absolutely, you know, say that you get right at Revive is your investment in developing your franchisees. So, you know, what initiatives do you want to share with the room about? I know you've got growth programs and stuff, but you spend a lot of time once they're mature, once they're up and running. You know, you don't leave them and go, well, they're all right over there. You sort of do keep them going. Just talk us through very briefly, just conscious of a bit of time, about sort of the initiatives in retaining those franchisees and keeping them excited and on the upward path.
Yeah, again, it's not something that's ever finished. So we've got our accelerated growth program, which is for the bigger franchisees, but we do, we have a set of training modules that we do every year. And generally we set that up quarter by quarter. So it's looking at what are the franchisees needing. So technician recruitment and retention is quite a big issue. So we've done loads of modules on that, and we continue to do it. We've been running social media modules to help them with marketing and you know, support for them getting customers in. So there's always some training available to them. We've done things a bit differently through the pandemic with lockdown and obviously getting people used to using Zoom, which our guys would never have done before. They didn't want to do that.
I've met some of your guys, and I can imagine them and Zoom might be not sort of
I know
fellows at the start.
Exactly, but now they're all used to it. And I say guys, they are all men, although we've got some male husband and wife teams that operate in the business. We'd love to get more women, but it seems to be that women aren't as interested in cars as men, which is a real shame. But yeah, they are mostly guys. Okay. So there's the training side. And then what we've kept going after, well, we're not quite out of it all yet, but since the lockdowns have eased and we can get in touch more, is we have a couple of Zoom calls that are set up that are every week. Any franchisee can jump on. Kelly, our business development director, and usually Mark as well, will be on there, and they can discuss what they like. The accelerated growth program have their own calls separately because they tend to be the franchisees with 5 or more technicians, so they're bigger, they've got different things. And then there's individual calls with different franchisees. And what we're trying to do is not just focus on the ones that are a problem, because the ones that are a problem need help and we need to do that with them. But if you're not careful, the ones that are getting on and doing a good job and being quietly efficient, you're not actually talking to them much, and that's not the right way to do things. So
they feel undervalued. If you liken it to a classroom at school, you know, the bright kids get accused of not getting support because they're bright and they get on with it. The kids in school get a lot of support, and the ones in the middle don't get anything. And it's just like that, I guess, isn't it? In juggling in terms of your priorities and timing. But I do like the fact that you've got communication at the heart of what you do. You've got programs at the heart of what you do. You've got development at the heart of what you do. But I'm going to ask you a question. If I'm running a franchise for Revive and I've got an expectation that you're going to support me, but that's going to take me away from my day job, you know, how many days a month, how many days a year, sorry, forget lockdown, we get out of lockdown, we get back to some semblance of normality. How many days a year would I be expected as the business owner of a franchise for Revive to invest in myself through coming to head office, doing accelerated training programs, going on, you know, module training courses? And is that part of doing business with Revive? Do they expect that, and do they have to commit to that?
They do need to commit to it. There's not a set number of days, and we do try not to do a full day, full in training, because I think you know, I can't remember where I read somewhere, is it 40 minutes or 90 minutes that's about the maximum for somebody to concentrate, and something like that. So maybe not quite. You're the trainee.
It depends who's delivering the exceptional training.
Oh, obviously, yes, yeah.
Key, but no,
clearly a couple of hours for you, Nick, at least. But yeah, so we again, modular based, and we try and do those short and sharp ones. I think it's got easier for us over the years as we've helped them move to becoming a management franchisee. So we used to train them to be a technician, but we've always wanted them to grow to multi-van. Now we take them in as a management franchisee. So there is an expectation from these new guys over the last probably 3 years that they will be able to be out of the business to do some training. And then with the other ones, it's part of those discussions about, you know, exit planning. If you're going to sell the business, you need to be able to step back a little bit, because you're not going to sell yourself with the business. So trying to encourage them to, we measure the engagement that we get with the different courses. How many franchisees have signed up? Who are those franchisees? And then try and tackle it the other way around. Who's not coming on any courses at all, but would really benefit from them? And
because that could be the alarm bell, couldn't it? They're not signing up because they're hiding something, or they're nervous of something or whatever. So again, going back to the core of what Marianne said there, I love the fact there's an expectation, but it's an expectation from the outset, so that it doesn't become a problem. It doesn't become guys like, oh my, I've got to go on a course. I don't want to go on a course. I want to run my business. But they know from the outset that going on whatever that module is, or coming to head office, or doing an away day, or whatever, it's all about developing themselves to develop their business. So I do love the fact it's an expectation from the outset. It's not implied, it's actually specific, isn't it?
Yeah, I actually talk about it on the discovery sessions. We don't do a discovery day now, we do discovery sessions, some of them virtual. And I talk about it, you know, there's ongoing training. It's not just your 2 weeks at the beginning or your 3 weeks, whatever that is. There will be courses, we will expect you to go on. We actually have it written into the franchise agreement that they have to come on the annual conference. And if they don't come, they're still going to get charged. So they might as well come to try and
I'll be honest with you, that's one way of seeking commitment. I've heard fabulous things about your conference. There's nothing not to like about coming to Revive annual conference, I suspect, as well.
Yeah, we can't wait for next year to do a real conference. We did a virtual one this year, and we sent hampers out to the franchisees, did the awards, but it was not the same.
Last question,
the night at the bar.
Last question from me on the last point that Marianne made about advocacy. You know, your franchisees, I've met many of them over the time I've worked with you. You know, some of them socially in the bar before we'd done a session, and they were all absolutely Blackpool Rock, cut you in half, Revive Auto Innovations. And, you know, how do you get to that stage? How do you get your teams, your franchisors, so proud and positive and outwardly confident about discussing Revive as a franchise? How have you got to that stage?
It's really interesting, because it's great to hear that from you, so thank you for that. And we know we've got really great franchisees, and we've just got the 5-star satisfaction award. But of course, what we get sometimes is the moaning, or the problems, or they say, oh, what's wrong with the franchisee? Why are they always moaning about something? But that's a franchising thing. And I think we try and pick people that are going to really enjoy what they do, and that's what we talk to them a lot about in the recruitment process. There will be no hard sell from us. We want to get to the stage you're buying it from us, we're not selling it to you, but they've got to really enjoy it. It's going to be hard work. They're going to be out and about and managing techs, and there's lots of problems, but they're going to have to solve them. But I think they do enjoy what they do. It's not sitting at a desk all day, at a computer all day. It's going out and about. They don't have to love cars, but they tend, and they're all very different. They're all from very different backgrounds. But I think what they do recognise, however much they might moan to us, they do recognise that we are there for them. So there's no sort of, you can only talk to head office between the hours of X and X. You can't speak to Mark and Terry anymore because they're the managing directors and they're above all that. There's none of that. So I think we've been able to give them the sense that we're there for them, because we are, because that's what makes us successful. But that doesn't mean rolling over and doing everything that the franchisees necessarily want you to do. That you've still got to give leadership and sometimes disagree with them. So,
well, you've also got to follow a process, because without a process, it's anarchy, isn't it? And that's nobody knows where it's going. So, Cathryn, that's been fantastic. It's been a really good insight into the theory stuff that Marianne shared with us from a live perspective. And choosing a business like yours within the franchise sector that's been on a journey of developing the business from technician based people who are interested in fixing them, to people who are running a business as a management tool, and then running technicians. That's been quite a journey, but at each stage I've loved the development of what I've seen, and I'm proud to say that working with Revive as I do from time to time, I enjoy the experience, and
we have a great time. We love what we do.
Absolutely, and that's brilliant to see. So thank you, Cathryn. Really appreciate you coming on the session today. Thanks for sharing your insights.
Oh, thanks for asking me. Really enjoyed it.
Excellent.